Hello and welcome to On the Real Live episode 5. I'm Pizzal, of course, and the fella joining me you guys may recognize from formerly of the YouTube channel Devour the Flesh and SlasherIndex.com, and currently of the YouTube channel VHSCollector and of the website VHSCollector.com. Paul, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, and we're going to just have a awesome discussion about VHS, which is something that is near and dear to my. You're fairly fond of it, right?
I am. Of course, I mean.
Just a little bit, though. Just a little bit. But if you guys have any questions for me or Paul, I've got the Q&A open if you're watching through Google+. There's my Twitter, and I'll be monitoring the comment section of the YouTube video itself. So feel free to go ahead and ask questions or whatever for me or Paul. And Paul and I were just talking before we went live, and it you know, I've been on YouTube for a long time, but now Paul has been on YouTube since like the dawning of YouTube. How long have you been on YouTube, Paul?
I think around since 2006, 2007, I made my first video on there. So that was pretty early. I think YouTube started in, what, 2005?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's gone through. I've been around since 2009, and I've just seen so much change since then. And I mean, you've got a few years on me, so I mean, you've definitely seen a lot of change occur on YouTube in that time, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's evolved quite a bit, especially since when Google took it over.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this before we dive into VHS. What was the community like at that time? Was it a smaller sort of movie community, collector community, or what do you think?
Well, it was a smaller community. As far as VHS, I think a lot of the people were, the kind of, it seemed like a lot of them were either, metalheads or, they were interested in horror movies. And a lot of these obscure horror movies I remember watching as a kid were only available on VHS, so of course they became VHS collectors because that was the only way they could see a lot of their old movies. These movies that they remember seeing when they were kids. And in exploring that, people just started to find all this other weird stuff and started collecting. It's a little bit different now, and I think the reason it changed was because of social media with Facebook and everything, and it just kind of exploded. Now you got a whole different generation of collectors that are, collecting these things, and they're a lot different than when I started. I mean, it was me and maybe a handful of other people. It wasn't, as far as U.S. Videotape collectors go. It's a lot different now. There's a lot more people. I mean, you just see them right on Facebook. They're all over the place now.
Right, yeah. And one other thing I definitely have to mention, we were talking about this before the show. You have got a very, very rare item. You have got a Blu-ray VHS combo player, right?
Yeah, I do. I was fortunate enough to buy it when it was still cheap, when it was kind of fresh. It's great because it kind of up-converts your VHS tapes because it all runs through an HDMI cable, and the VHS tapes look beautiful on that machine.
Wow.
Of course, it can't add, detail that isn't there, but they look pretty. It looks pretty sweet. I must say, watching the VHS tapes on that player.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, can you record like a Blu-ray onto a VHS?
It's not a recording device.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I don't know if I could record onto VHS. I don't think it does that.
But that's got, of all the sort of rare items in your collection, that's got to be one of. I mean, I'd never heard of a Blu-ray VHS combo player.
Yeah, hold on a second. My dog is barking. All right, I'm back.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys are familiar with me, which I'm sure most of you are, you know that I spent a huge amount of time as a kid in the video stores in the mid to late 80s, the 90s, into the 2000s.
I'm really sorry. Some people just
That's all
came over
right.
to my house, so I had to
That's
let
all
them
right,
know
man.
that. So, what'd I miss?
That's all right. No, no. I was just kind of reiterating my own history as like a video store denizen as a kid, growing up in the mid '80s or the mid to late '80s, the '90s, even into the early 2000s, just spending a ton of time in the video store and just being drawn to the horror section as if guided by radar. And I'm sure you've probably got a pretty similar background as well. You may not be quite as old as I am, but tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, excuse me. So I remember watching all these movies when I was a young kid. My grandmother had this amazing videotape collection, and she had everything, slasher films, everything that you wouldn't expect a grandmother to have, but she had all that stuff. And as I grew older, I remember a lot of these movies. All those tapes had gotten lost in a fire, but I wanted to seek out and try to find these movies I remembered as a kid, and they were only available on VHS. And slowly I start to accumulate all these movies, and in the process, I found all these other weird movies, and I found it as a way to satisfy this morbid curiosity in me. I found a lot of weird, oddball stuff in the process. It was a lot of fun. Around that time, I mean, I mostly had like chain video stores around me, like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, and then people in my neighborhood, they kind of knew what I was into, and they kept telling me, go to 112 Video, go to 112 Video. I went there, and I was like, oh my gosh, all this really weird, oddball horror movie stuff, and just aisles and aisles of it, and it just blew me away. I just wanted to rob the store, honestly. They just had all these things that I was just trying to get into my collection. So not until many years later, around 2 years ago, I started to go there regularly to scan covers for the website. But yeah, that's pretty much the rundown.
So did you? I mean, so you sort of got into videos through your grandmother more so than actually going to a video store, right?
I have very few vague memories of being in a video store when I was really young. I remember one instance just looking at a cover of A Head on a Platter or something to that nature. And there are a few movies that have that image on it, but I don't know which one I saw at that time. But it always kind of stuck with me. Other than that, I don't have a lot of memories of mom and pop video stores, other than, except for like Blockbuster, which isn't mom and pop, but those are the ones I spent the most time at. It wasn't until I found 112 Video is where I really spent a lot of time at mom and pop video store, and that was probably only 3 or 4 years ago. So a lot of my discovery of tapes was through the internet.
Well, I'm from a very, very small town. We didn't even have a movie theater in my town, but we always had at least 2 video stores, and they were always ma and pa. We didn't have any chain video stores in my town, so I mean, I was exposed to everything, and the horror section for me was just home. I don't know what it was that drew me there, but one of my earliest memories is like standing in front of the horror section and like the VHS box of Evil Dead 2 staring back at me. And I just remember those cover arts of those boxes were just so vivid and beautiful.
Yeah.
And, that's definitely something that's been lost. It's been lost for a long time, but it's very lost today. I mean, there's no artistry in the cover arts for DVDs and Blu-rays today. And it seemed like VHS, some of them they went over the top to try and sell the movie. The movie sucked, but it had a beautiful box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we live in a digital age now, so
yeah,
it's a lot easier to just sit someone in front of a computer and Photoshop some existing images together and take some screenshots of a movie that, and have, someone in front of a computer do something with it than it is to commission someone to draw artwork. I
Right.
mean, they're trying to bring that back with some of the new Blu-rays, um, which I guess is interesting. But I like the original ones were fine the way they were. Some of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely it went from an actual artist. I mean, H.R. Giger did a VHS box cover art, or well, I mean, it was a poster,
So,
but it turned into a VHS box cover art. Yeah, and like I mean, today, then we had artists. Today we've got a guy in an office in front of a computer with Photoshop. So I mean, a lot's changed. But when did you sort of consciously say, I'm going to start collecting VHS, and what kind of VHSs did you go for? Did you want to collect?
well, let me see. Well, originally, like I said, I was looking for movies I remember watching as a kid, and one of them were Basket Case, because my local video store only had part 2 and 3. Or no, just part 3 actually at the time. I was like, they only have part 3 where the other movies. I had to go online and find them. And this was when Amazon actually had auctions and Z shops, they called them. I don't know if you remember that. Amazon at one time actually did have auctions. And I started buying all this different weird stuff from them. I remember buying Silent Night, Deadly Night because my video store had 2 through 5. They didn't have the first one. It's like, I gotta get the first one. And what I
Yeah.
got in the mail was a big box. I was like, "Oh, this is pretty neat." Um, and from there, I just started to explore different things, and I just found a lot of cool different titles. I think what really inspired me to collect a lot more was um, this time where I was at a flea market, and this guy had all these amazing rare tapes for like $1 each, and it just ignited the collector spirit in me, I guess. And I started making YouTube videos at that time as well. So I started to collect and make YouTube videos. I mean, there's a lot of weird, oddball stuff at the time. A lot of these movies weren't on DVD. You know, now you have Cannibal Camp out on DVD, Witcher Massacre. Uh, a lot of The Ripper, Blood Cult. A lot of these obscure SOV movies are now on DVD, but at the time they were obscure. And that's what made them so interesting to me. And so that's why I was really doing reviews on those movies, because nobody else was really talking about them that much.
Right.
A lot different now. Everything's out of the bag. Everything has been kind of talked. There's a few obscurities still lingering out there, but a lot of the cool ones have all been discovered and talked about. And maybe that's another reason why I haven't done VHS reviews in a while.
Right. But I know you have an affinity for the big boxes, the old school big box VHSs. Is that what you typically kind of go for? Or are they? They're probably a lot more rare than the other VHSs, right?
It can be. I mean, some of the most rarest tapes aren't even big boxes. But
Oh, okay.
it's with a big box, it's also like a nice keepsake item because it's big and it looks nice displayed. I mean, that's the actual terminology is a display box, but collectors, we call them big boxes. Um, but like, you know, Tales from the Quintet Zone, Mama's Home, these really, you know, really rare tapes are just slipcases. But the big boxes are great. I usually used to just collect the big boxes. I don't collect so much anymore. I focus a lot of my time and energy on VHSCollector.com, and I have a lot of tapes that I've wanted in my collection. So, but I used to really be interested in the big boxes mostly. So you could see some of them behind me. So
Before I ask you about VHSCollector.com, let me ask you what is, and I'm going to assume that the most rare is also the most valuable in your collection, but correct me if I'm wrong. What is the most rare and the most valuable VHS in your collection?
probably Tales from the Quintet Zone, I guess.
How much would you get for that one on like eBay or Amazon Market? How rare is it among the VHS collector community?
I don't know what it is on the market now, but a few years ago it went for between $500 and $800. But this is the
Wow.
U.S. market, which is what I collect, the U.S. tapes. But there are tapes, you know, pre-searched from the U.K. or different rarities from Australia that will go for like over thousands of dollars. I'm not too familiar with that territory of collecting, but as far as U.S. tapes go, that is one of the most valuable ones. Another one is Mama's Home. I actually think Mama's Home is a much more rare tape. It's incredibly difficult to get, but for some reason, Tales from the Quartet Zone goes for a lot more money than Mama's Home.
All right. Well, and VHS is a far more fragile sort of medium than DVD and Blu-ray or even Laserdisc. I mean, you've got a disc, and if you take care of it, it'll be around for a while. I mean, VHS tapes, they definitely weren't thinking about this tape that we're making in the late 70s. It'll still be around in 40+ years. I mean, it's just more of a how do you store yours? How do you house them to make sure that they last as long as possible?
Well, of course you're supposed to keep them upright. I know I'm contradicting myself because I have some flat ones behind me, but I'm currently moving stuff around in storage because when you put them flat, they unspool. Or, I mean, it's never happened to me, but that's what people say if you have them flat for too long. That's it, really. I mean, I have them in protective plastic boxes, at least the big ones. Actually, all of them except for the clamshells. But also, I got a bunch of bins behind me as well. I don't think you could see them in the video, but they're all packed away in tubs and everything. That's really all I could do to protect them.
Yeah, yeah. Why VHS? Why not Betamax? Why not Laserdisc? Why not one of the other sort of dead formats? What is it about VHS that to people like you and me makes it there's a sentimentality?
It's interesting you bring up Betamax because I actually think Betamax is a much more rare format, and I don't know why more people don't collect Betamax. Because you gotta use your common sense. Betamax was used a lot less in the 80s, because the popularity the VHS started to grow. So you'd think that Betamax has to be a much more rare format for certain movies. But still, people gravitate towards the VHS tapes, and they do go for more money, even though, in my opinion, a lot of the Betamax tapes are a lot more rare. But I think for collecting purposes, VHS is more collectible because people can watch them. I mean, it's difficult to get a Betamax player, which is one of the reasons. And also that they're bigger, a VHS. But as far as why VHS took off and not the other formats, well, I don't know if you want me to get into the format war, but really what it has to do with is, Betamax didn't hold enough, time on a tape, and, porn was mostly distributed on VHS, which helped contribute to the success of the VHS format. I mean, there's a lot of different things why VHS won that, different factors.
I've always heard it's directly because porn embraced it. If porn had embraced Betamax, we'd all have had a Betamax player in our homes in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah,
but they embraced VHS.
Betamax was like privately owned by Sony, I believe, and Sony wanted nothing to do with the porn industry. There are movies, pornography that was released on Betamax still, but legally it was a lot easier to get your pornography released on VHS, and plus VHS at the time at least held a lot more time duration than Betamax. Betamax finally caught up, but by that point it was already at the top.
Right. Well, tell us a little bit about VHSCollector.com and why you were compelled to start it.
Well, I'm OCD and I like to have everything, organized, information, and like when I go on VHSCollector.com and I click a distributor and you see all the different covers and catalog number order, that just excites me in a weird way. I just love seeing all of that information there. And I tried to do that with Slasher Index, my previous site, but it eventually evolved into VHSCollector.com. I just wanted to create a resource that everybody could use and contribute to. And I wasn't getting a lot of scans. I mean, there are contributors that contribute regularly to VHSCollector.com, but I thought that, you know, if I could find a source of a lot of covers, I could really help the site grow, and that's when I started going to 112 Video and scanning all those thousands of covers. So it's still a work in progress. There's still thousands of scans I have to upload on there. But once they're all uploaded, it's going to be pretty sweet. It's going to have a lot of those distributor catalogs filled up. So
right. And I have to say, I tried to beat the site. Like, I mean, I was typing in the most obscure, you know, I had the most awesome Ma and Pa video store in my town, and it was owned by a guy who loved ultra obscure, low budget, shot on video horror. And I saw some of the, I mean, it was like, it had to be, this guy was like the one person in the United States that bought this VHS for rental. And you know, I just remembered some of those titles, and I punched them into VHSCollector.com. Some of them are not even listed on IMDb. And you've got scans of the cover arts, you've got the distributor, you've got information about the movie. I mean, it's really, I mean, it appears to be, VHSCollector.com is just a database devoted to VHS movies, mostly horror movies, I think, and just really exhaustive. So, I mean, I can't imagine the amount of time and just man hours that you've put into that website. I was really taken aback by it, to be honest.
yeah, VHS Collector, like, I remember being on IMDb, and I would find titles on IMDb just cruising around, and I would find a cool title like Urge to Kill, and I'm like, does this movie exist? It's such a cool title. It's on IMDb. It must exist. And so I keep trying to find this movie. I can't find it anywhere. So I actually find a producer, someone that was, you know, in the credits for that movie on IMDb. And he says, no, we never actually made that movie. It was just a concept. I'm like, it's on IMDb. I don't know how it ends up on there. So one of the great things with VHSCollector.com is that it kind of documents the existence of these movies. So even if it's on IMDb, the information is wrong, on VHSCollector.com, you can look at the cover yourself and see that it exists. You know, it's out there somewhere. And so that was another thing that motivated me to do VHSCollector.com, because, like you said, some of the mom and pop stores had a lot of weird independent stuff from underground video labels and stuff that never went mainstream. And they only really sold to other mom and pop video stores. So with VHSCollector.com, it'll be a resource of those movies as well. For some reason, it never ended up on IMDb.
And is it about? I mean, also I think the site is about preserving VHS, because I mean a lot of people today, they you know, I mean VHS has been a dead format for a number of years, a lot longer. I mean when you think about it, it's been dead for a long time. So I mean there's and the video store too. I mean the video store, I mean you still have 112 Video. I really don't have anything in my area that I'm aware of. I mean all the video stores are just gone. So I mean it's really a bygone era. And you know, the site to me seems to be about preserving that era, preserving VHS for you know future generations, really.
Yeah, it's meant to be a resource for cinemaphiles as well. I mean, there seems to be a little bit of a divide between people who are real film scholars or cinemaphiles and people who are just, you know, young videotape collectors. And I really think there should be a coming together of those two groups. And so I'm hoping that maybe one day in the future, people will take VHSCollector.com seriously and understand all the information that's on there that's very relevant to film history and cinema history. I mean, the VHS changed the world in a way that it doesn't get credit for. And it's sad that it doesn't. You know, like you said, people still seeing it as this obsolete format, but they have no idea. They don't consider the impact it had on our culture. You know, average Joes could just make a movie and it will end up in a video store like Campbell Campout. That's amazing. This guy could just make a video with a few of his friends and have it, you know, in 3,000 video stores across the country. It was before YouTube ever happened, and it just became a medium for people to, you know, express themselves in a video format like they could never have done before. Not everyone knew how to use 8mm cameras and all that. Videotape really made it, you know, more feasible to do that for the consumer. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it has such a more important impact than just that, but you know, when I look at some of the really weird tutorial videos and just a lot of weird oddball stuff that's out there, VHS made all that stuff possible.
Right.
And doesn't get credit for that. At least not as much as I think it should.
Well, one thing I know you talk about in your videos, and I always thought was really cool about the video store too, was the fact that to think about, like, you know, this tape has been through all these other people's hands, you know, and it's kind of been passed around like a, you know, I don't know, almost like a ceremonial kind of thing. It passes from one person to another, and you know, I remember opening up the box, and like the person who had it before me didn't rewind it, and I just imagined, there was some lazy bastard in like a wife beater drinking a beer who was too lazy to rewind.
And you put it on, and you could see at the exact point of the movie he got bored, because that's when he just turned it off, and the video store didn't rewind it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's that's all so interesting to me. I mean, I don't know, the newer generation of collectors, they'll buy these limited edition new modern VHS tapes. I don't know why. I mean, I can't tell them what to spend their money on, but for me, there's so much intrinsic value in an original VHS tape. And I got tapes, you know, they obviously have the video store company, you know, little labels on each tape, so I have videotapes from all around the country, you know, and even Canada and different parts of the world, a few tapes. So I think that's all very interesting. That, you know, there are, you know, on the videotapes behind me, there are thousands and thousands upon man viewing hours of people watching these movies. So it has that value in it, and that just intrigues me. I think that's beautiful in a way. I love it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just imagine one of those tapes. It probably passed through 100 people's hands, and then it sat in a box somewhere for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, "Oh wait, this has value now. I'm going to put it on eBay," and then you bought it, and now it's yours. You know, it's got a whole kind of secret history to it that you find it very interesting. I've always found that really interesting of video stores and just videos in general, too.
Yeah, I still visit 112, and I'll just take this oddball movie off the shelf, and they can tell me how many times it was rented. And that's an interesting story, because I try to see if there's any correlation between artwork and the number of rentals and when it was rented. I'm trying to get access to the records of the video store from the 80s, and they have it on an old computer. I'm just looking forward to seeing those video store records. It actually lists the retail value of the tape, who rented it, you know, how many times it was rented, all this interesting information. I'm just looking forward to getting all of that.
Yeah. Well, why don't you give 112 Video a plug? Because I mean, it's a Mon Pa video store, and I don't think there's really a whole lot of those left. And it sounds like it's got a really awesome selection. So why don't you give them a plug? Where are they located at?
They're on Route 112 in Patchogue, New York, on Long Island. You could find them on the net. So. Oh,
cool! Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Very, very cool.
People all over the place come to their store just because they heard of it and they want to, you know, see what's in there. So, and there's a lot of tapes that they don't have out. They have a back room with a ton of tapes that I've just finished scanning, and it's a shame that those tapes don't get a lot of people can't enjoy them because they're in boxes in the back room. But at one point, 112 Video used to be a lot bigger. But you know, the video rental business is hurting right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've had to move out the VHSs to make room for DVDs and Blu-rays, right?
Well, yeah, but you'd still be surprised how many VHS tapes they do have out on the floor. There's still a ton, but nobody's renting them. As
Yeah.
long as there is some room for new DVDs, they're going to keep the out-of-print VHS tapes on the shelf.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. And I know I wanted to mention this to you as well because I know everything that's kind of collectible and there's like a legitimate community for it. What's past is prologue, and what was hip 20 years ago, it'll come around to be hip again. Are there a lot of sort of phony hipster VHS collectors out there who just sort of want the tapes because they're old? I mean,
Well, yeah. I think the social media made that happen, honestly. A lot of people know how I feel about that. I don't want to get into that too much, but there are people, and they know who they are, that, you know, contributed to it turning into a hipster trend. Have you seen the VHS documentaries out there?
I've not. Somebody recommended Rewind This to me the other day, and I've heard of it. I've just not had a chance to watch it yet.
I've I was offered to watch Rewind This, which was actually made before the other one, but released after it. But on Rewind This, the distribution company contacted me and gave me a online screening to watch it, and I just told them I'm not going to review this movie because I have nothing positive to say about it. They spend about 10 minutes with a guy showing off his VHS tattoo, and 2 minutes with a woman who's like a film preservationist. And I'm just, I don't know if those are the exact numbers, but it's something like that. They don't spend enough time on the history of the format, and they spend too much time with some guy in his parents' attic. I don't want the public to get the impression that that's what VHS collecting is. And you brought up hipsters. That's a hipster documentary. The people in it are hipsters. It's directed by hipsters. And it's unfortunate that, the rest of the public is going to think that that's what VHS collecting is. I mean, it might be that for some people, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening, but it is what it is. I'm hoping that the trend will fade away at some point.
Right. Well, and I mean, clearly the fact that there's such a market or such a call for these old school, VHS tapes, even the big box tapes. And I'll let you decide how much of a rant you want to get in on this. I know you did a couple of videos on your channel about it, but it's reached the heights of even getting back to Charles Band, who allegedly found a whole cache of these big box, old school Wizard video. Not the tapes. He reproduced the tapes, but the boxes are supposedly legit, and he was selling them on the Full Moon website for, what was it, 50, 60 bucks a pop?
Yeah.
And they are, and I think you proved this without a shadow of a doubt, they are reproductions. So even he's trying to cash in. So even he's trying to cash in on this trend of, he knows there's a lot of people out there who want these simply because they're retro.
Yeah, Charles Band is more an entrepreneur than he is an artist, and I don't condemn him for that. What I condemn him for is lying, being a bold-faced liar. Even making a video saying these are authentic boxes when they're not. That's what hurts. But I can understand why Charles Band did it. If you look at I'm not gonna say everybody, but if you look at what VHS collectors are, the new generation of them, I could completely see how he would think he could fool these people. But he wasn't gonna fool me and some other original collectors, and that's how I made the video. I've had people, quite a few people, message me thanking me for making that video, because a lot of these young collectors wouldn't even know the difference. Unless I made that prove it.
and it's not that he's selling them for $20, $25. I mean, he's selling them for $50, $60 a pop.
Yeah. Apparently his signature is worth $5 more. So if you want the limited signed one, it's like $5 more or something. So 2 seconds of his time is worth like $5. I only ever bought one, so I can make that comparison. But there were quite a few people that subscribed to that monthly program thing for $600. But it's funny because I predicted that he wasn't going to make enough money to make the future releases. That's exactly what happened. He canceled all future big box releases because it wasn't successful. Go to his site. I think there's actually a message about him saying, "Oh, they were damaged" or something. Well, how convenient is that? So I think we kind of predicted that would happen. So one of the ones he promised to release was a book box, a box with a gatefold on it. And you're not going to find many distributors that are going to make, or printers that are going to make the same exact size box. And I think he found it out the hard way, and that's when he realized to just cancel the rest of them, because it would just cost too much money to make those.
That the jig was up, right?
Yeah, the jig was up, but he still never, admitted to anything. He never would. I mean, he's bootlegged. Right. I don't know how he gets away with it, but he's still bootlegging movies, and he has a reputation. I don't know how he does it. I think when he gets busted, he just writes someone a check. But he's been doing it for a long time. Like with the original Puppet Master box set, he was pumping those out, and he didn't even have distribution rights to those.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, so he made a bunch of those, left them and kept selling them, telling people, "Oh, these are the old stock." But really, he kept making them even though he wasn't supposed to. A lot of sleazy things he does over there.
Yeah, I know there was some kind of dispute with Miyazaki over "I Spit on Your Grave" a while back too. Yeah.
Yeah, the new "I Spit on Your Grave" Blu-ray. Zarki even talks about that, and I wish I would have watched that when I made that Wizard video, because that was some great information right on that video. Miyazaki himself says that Wizard Video pretty much ripped him off. They sold "I Spit on Your Grave" to other territories in the world, and Zarki didn't even know what was going on. It's like, why is my movie being sold all over the world? And of course, Charlie Band is behind it all. So I'm sure he got a check, but he didn't get what he deserved.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, let me ask you. Somebody had left a question. They want to know, what is your favorite all-time cover art, VHS cover art?
Oh, there's a lot of really neat ones. Of course, I like the graphic artwork. By that I mean like gruesome artwork. Like Savage Intruders are a really neat gruesome cover. I mean Gore Girls. There's a lot of cool ones that I like. I mean, those are pretty top notch. Mama's Home. I love covers with people getting sliced, their throats cut. It makes me sound like a terrible evil person, but I think it really epitomizes 80s independent horror, that graphic imagery, because that's how they were selling those movies. The movie might not even have that scene in there, someone getting their throat cut, but they knew it would sell movies, rentals. So
right, that's like what we were saying earlier about how they would commission an artist to go all out and create this beautiful graphic sort of box cover art for a movie that they knew was crap, because the box cover art would sell the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's some good ones out there. Like an interesting one is 555. Of course, that movie is kind of mainstream now. But the hot pink cover, the severed head on the cover, those were desperate attempts to get your film noticed at a video store. And at least that scene on 555 is in the movie, but a lot of times they just made something up and threw it on the cover. I think a great example interesting one is The Night After Halloween, Magnum Entertainment, where the movie's not even about Halloween. It's a thriller about a model, but it's nothing to do with Halloween. And the cover shows like a bloody knife on a calendar. There's a lot of movies like that where they just exploit the marketing for the movie to create an awesome cover to sell it.
Right. Well, are you? I mean, have you? Do you have a DVD or Blu-ray collection?
Well, I have a quite a big DVD collection, but I just started to recently upgrade everything to Blu-ray. I absolutely love Blu-ray. I haven't really got hooked on it because I guess for a while I was just collecting VHS tapes because I always felt them to have, like I said before, an intrinsic value that will never, really go
Right.
down dramatically. So it was also partly like an investment, but I started seeing some of these Blu-rays of my favorite films, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like watching the movie again for the first time, some of the details in these
Oh,
Blu-rays.
yeah.
So I actually recently just went through my entire DVD collection and made an Amazon wish list of everything that's available on Blu-ray, and I'm starting to buy a lot of those movies on Blu-ray now.
Yeah. Oh, I had the exact same experience where, like, when Blu-ray first came out, I was like, I don't know if I want to, I've spent all this time and money on this DVD collection, now I've got to rebuy it on Blu-ray. But I mean, literally, it's like watching, I remember a movie like Heat that I've seen a million times on VHS and DVD. Watching it for the first time on Blu-ray was like, wow, I'm seeing. It was like watching it for the first time. It really was. And so, that was
Blu-ray was American Psycho. And
cool.
It was such a crisp. You could see the pores in people's skin, the makeup. It was just an incredibly different experience. It just blew me away.
Yeah, I was having a conversation. I actually did a live commentary for the original Friday the 13th, and we were watching it with in high definition on the Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
And you could see like the makeup, like you could see like Tom Savini's piece.
Yeah.
It had a different skin tone than the actual, so you could see where the piece ended and the real skin began. But of course, I mean, back in 1980,
right?
yeah. But I mean, back in 1980, they weren't thinking about high def, But
No,
it stands in high def. It stands out to the point where you're like, wow, I can't believe I didn't notice that before. Considering that,
myself too, I love those Friday films, and watching some of them on Blu-ray. I mean, the later ones aren't bad, but watching, like you said, the first one and seeing the prosthetics so clearly, like you said, the stones, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's that was literally like watching the movie for the first time, seeing like, oh, okay. Yeah. But that's like you're thinking, wow, I've seen this movie a million times. How could I mean, even on DVD, I mean, how could I have not really it stood out that much? But oh well. Tell us a little bit about, I know you've started a GoFundMe project for VHSCollector.com. Tell the folks a little bit about that and why they should donate.
Well, I'm not a computer. I don't code websites. I mean, I could do a little bit of stuff on my own, but I've been paying someone to work on stuff on the website. Not a lot, but the person I have working on it believes in my vision. But if I was able to pay him, he'd make it more of a priority. And I'm not going to be able to focus as much attention on the site as I used to. So I'm going to have moderators on the site to take care of it for me when I'm not able to, pay 110% on the site. So I want the site to be completely finished. What you see on the site now has been sort of like in the middle stages of what I plan it to be. And I'm asking for $3,000 or, anything that I can get from that to help pay for future hosting, to pay to have a lot of the website finished, to have the additional features. I look at other websites and like Laserdisc Database and Soundtrack Collector, and there's quite a few database sites. There's one for NES games, which is an amazing resource. And that's how I want VHSCollector.com to be. And it's just it's going to require me to pay for hosting and all these different things. So if anybody really enjoys VHSCollector.com and wants to see it even better, contribute. Donate anything you can, and it would help a lot. I just really want the site to be finished because it's been like 4 years or something, VHSCollector.com, and I would just love to see the site finished with all the features and everything. So the $3,000 will help go towards that, all the hosting that would need for the future as well, and possibly some merch and stuff. So it would be a great help, because at one point the site was also running really slow because of bandwidth issues of people uploading high-res images, and I would just like the site to run a lot smoother too. Yeah, the campaign is really to just help me finish the site. If I don't raise the money, then it'll be a long time before the site could be as great as I envision it could be. So yeah.
Right, and people can contribute. I mean, if they have old school, VHSs and the boxes, they can contribute scans and info and stuff for the website too, right?
That's very important. I mean, the most important thing is the information. If you don't have anything financial to contribute to the site, I'd be more than happy to see more data entered into the site, because I may, maybe a few years before the site is finished, but if the information is there, that's what's important. So, yeah, if anyone could contribute anything that's not already on there, would be an enormous help, because you're contributing to something that is accessible to everybody. You're sharing your covers with the rest of the world, and it's completing, I think of it like a big puzzle, and we have all these pieces missing in the puzzle. So if you have a few pieces of that puzzle to add to this database, you're helping us complete an entire picture, and that's greatly appreciated. So yeah, so if you can't contribute money, I'm more than happy if you could just contribute scans, or if you don't have scans or money but you purchase a lot on Amazon or eBay, we have an affiliate program with Amazon and eBay where we get a tiny commission every time someone uses our links on our site. So bookmark one of our links. Every time you purchase something, we get a little bit of commission. It helps benefit us, and it doesn't cost you any extra money to use our links. So it's a win-win. So yeah. It's a great way for people to help out if they don't have the money or the scans to contribute otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. We do have some questions from viewers. Jason John Maggs asks, do you prefer audio on VHS or cleared up a bit on DVD?
What was the question?
The audio quality. Do you prefer, and I think this could be, I know we talked about how awesome Blu-ray quality is, but I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And to get back to the question about favorite VHS cover arts, one of my all-time favorites is that old-school media Texas Chainsaw Massacre VHS box. And when I watch I own Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Blu-ray, but I don't really want to watch it cleaned up and perfect and just crisp. I like it grainy. I like it, I like the tracking lines. I like it just, I like it gnarly like that. When I think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that is what I think of. I don't think of high def. You know what I mean? So I think the question is more about kind of like how collectors of vinyl say the audio on the vinyl is better than on CD. Do you prefer the audio in VHS or on a DVD?
Honestly, I prefer the best quality that's available. People get the wrong impression that because I'm a video collector, I'm only going to watch, the dirty, gritty VHS tapes. There is a time and a place where I would, occasionally watch something, that's gritty and dirty on an old VHS tape. But as a lover of cinema, I like the extra detail you get from something in the best quality. Like when I was rewatching, Friday the 13th Part 7 on Blu-ray, I would just keep pausing the movie and noticing awesome, stuff you would never notice before in the background. So
Right.
I absolutely love great quality, and that goes for sound as well. Um, I would prefer the best image and sound quality there is to VHS normally. With Texas Chainsaw Massacre, uh, I believe the movie was shot on 16 millimeter. So even on Blu-ray, I think it still looks pretty rough. It looks a lot better, of course, than the VHS does. But for me personally, it doesn't distract. I could watch it on Blu-ray and be satisfied with it because it just besides the picture quality, the subject matter is just gritty. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So,
Oh yeah.
and I think they're coming out with a new Blu-ray of that. I think coming out. It's
Yeah, they
available.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, 40th anniversary edition. Yeah. Yeah. Cineplanet says, Paul, has anybody told you that you look very similar to David Ellefson from Megadeth?
No.
You do a little bit. You do a
Do
little
I?
bit. I have to say. I have to say you do a little bit. Let's see. Are there any VHS titles that you would love to own on DVD or Blu-ray?
Well, right now, there's quite a few movies I would love to own on Blu-ray. One of them is not even that rare, and it's Silent Night, Deadly Night. When I saw that on DVD, I was just blown away because I was so used to that old VHS tape. But now that it's
Right.
coming out on Blu-ray soon in September, man, I am so psyched for that. So excited. It's one of my top favorite movies of all time, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Movie doesn't get enough credit, but I'm really excited for that. As for other movies, off the top of my head, a lot of them, some of my top favorite ones are available on DVD or Blu-ray, but the one I'm looking really forward to is that one. Is Silent Night, Deadly Night. So there's probably other ones. I can't. A lot of movies have made it to the digital age now.
Yeah. What do you think about? Are you on board with the new Halloween, the complete collection Blu-ray set? Are you going to be picking that up?
Oh, hells yeah, I'm getting that, man. What kind of question is that? The only problem with that set, is that it has the Rob Zombie movies in there. And it's not because I hate those movies, which I do. It's because I don't feel like they're part of the anthology of Halloween. They're like a separate thing. So it's
Right.
kind of like a thorn in my side, knowing that, well, when I get the set, I'm going to have those 3 discs dedicated to Rob Zombie movies. Do two
Right.
cuts of the first movie and then the second movie, which even Rob Zombie fans don't like. But I guess they want to make it as complete as possible. So in my head, I'm kind of thinking, well, I guess I can consider the Rob Zombie movies as supplements in the set and not like movies.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to the set anyway. I mean, to see the producer's cut on Blu-ray, that's a revolutionary moment right now because that movie has been bootlegged for so many years, and it's going to be great to see it in high def. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I look forward to knowing what kind of features all that's going to have.
Yeah, they're supposed to be releasing now. I mean, from what I heard, there's supposed to be a lot of and brand new features. So I'm really hoping that there are, because a lot of people, including myself, you know, I own all the movies on Blu-ray already. I own all of them on DVD too. So I mean, it's going to be a big double dip for a lot of people, and it's $118. So I mean, it's a pretty big double dip. But
But it's the ultimate thing. Like, I don't think we're gonna see this again, just because of all the factors involved with all the different studios involved. So,
right.
if anyone wants one, they better pre-order theirs because I don't think it's gonna happen again. And if it does, it won't be for a while because what they were able to pull together is something that is magical with all these different studios. Nobody ever thought that this would have ever happened. So it's a pretty big.
Yeah.
Especially with the producers, it's just the perfect box set. This is exactly what the Friday the 13th box set should have been. I refuse to buy that. I downloaded the movies in high def, but I will not buy that box set just because I'm insulted by the lack of attention they paid to the details of that Friday 13th box set. and I'm more of a Friday the 13th fan than I am of Halloween, although I do love the Halloween movies a lot.
Right.
So I'm really hoping that this Halloween box set is really successful, and then the other studios will jump on and make really good box sets for the other franchises.
Yeah. Oh, I agree too. I definitely agree too. And I mean, like you said, I've had people ask me over the years if I ever thought that would happen, a complete collection, and I would always say no. There's no way. There's just too many companies. You know, it's like that series is split up like pizza. I mean, just everybody grabbed a slice,
Yeah.
and there's just no way that they all could come together. But and of course, I mean, you know, people had asked me over the years too about Halloween, the producer's cut of Halloween 6, and I said no. I mean, I thought if that was ever going to happen for real, it would have happened a long time ago. So
Yeah, I think
there's
in that
definitely
documentary that they made, what was it called? 25 Years of Terror.
25 years of terror. Yeah.
Whatever it's called. A producer from Dimensions actually said, "Oh, we're looking into that." You know, kind of vague about it, but
Yeah.
I really hope there's a special feature, even a commentary track about the story of the producer's cut, because I would love to hear that story, because that
They are.
really had a life of its own in the bootleg market.
Oh yeah, that's probably the most bootlegged movie. Well, I mean, next to like Night of the Living Dead, that's probably the most bootlegged movie ever.
Oh,
Because I mean, it's been around for so long.
I remember
You know?
when I first started to. What inspired me, partially, to when I used to bootleg movies, I saw this guy selling these. This was when DVD burners just started to come out. This guy was selling bootlegs of the producer's cut for over $100. Just blew my mind. So it has had quite a history. In many ways, it kickstarted that whole bootlegging market for the horror genre.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that we're finally going to see an actual disc, and I just really hope that there's features on that disc. A commentary track would be amazing.
They are doing. Daniel Farrens, the writer of Halloween 6, did do. I know at least he was involved in it. I'm sure there were others as well, just for the producer's cut. And I really think that movie could stand to have its own, just feature-length documentary talking about its legacy. And I mean, being the most bootlegged movie ever. I mean, it's definitely got a huge history.
To hear that.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
let's see if we got
that 112 video. They have a rental copy for a producer's cut because it was always requested. Yeah, everybody wanted to see that. It's pretty interesting.
But yeah, I think pretty much we've gone through the questions. A lot of the questions are kind of similar to stuff that we've already answered. But yeah, I mean, do you have anything else that you wanna add about being a VHS collector, or the importance of keeping that the memory of VHS alive, and what you strive to do as a archivist, someone who's trying to preserve VHS?
Well, I just hope that people understand, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's because I've already mentioned this, but why it's important to our cult, why VHS, the format, is important to pop culture, film history, all these things. And that's what it means to me. It's not just this sort of retro thing I remember as a kid like it is for some of these hipsters. It's a lot deeper than that for me. And I really hope that people don't think or assume that's why everybody collects VHSs, because I partially don't want to be associated with that hipster thing going on the other side. I just want to be associated with people who truly do love film and understand why the format is important to culture and film history. I mean, I went to school for film, and I do have a sincere appreciation for cinema, and I've actually had people, when they complained about my Horror is Dead videos, they'll be like, "Oh, go to film school and learn how hard it is to make a film." It's funny because I have a degree in film, so I do have a sincere, interest in film, and I appreciate the format for, like I said, its role in the timeline of the rather short timeline of film history, and it's not just about watching tape, remembering when I was watching tapes when I was a little kid. That's part of it, but there's a much bigger picture than that, and I hope that people understand. Maybe they're not ready to understand because it's still a rather young format. Maybe in another 30, well, maybe another 10, 20 years, people will start understanding, when they're looking back, how significant it was to our culture. But yeah, that's what I'm in it for.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up Horror is Dead. Go to YouTube, search Horror is Dead, and watch those videos, particularly the Rob Zombie one. I support and condone it 100%. Actually, all the videos on the Horror is Dead account I really enjoy. So go search Horror is Dead, and those are some great videos there. Very great videos. Let me ask you one final question, then we'll sign off. If you had to grab one VHS, your house is on fire, you got to grab one VHS tape and save it. Which one are you going for?
It would probably be Tales from the Code Dead Zone, but not the reason most people think. It's not because it's my most valuable tape, but it's also because someone very special, my two most rarest tapes, a very special person to me had got me those tapes, so they have a lot of sentimental value other than their value on the collecting market. So those would be the ones, obviously, that I would, try to grab.
Yeah, cool. And sentimentality, I mean, I talked about this earlier too, about, the fondness I have for, the video store and growing up in the video store and renting all those tapes, and just, there's that sentimental quality with just that whole thing, I don't know, there was just something really special about that time and about the video store and about videos. So yeah, that's why I wanted to have you on, because I definitely think that more people need to be aware of of that era, and
they
how
part
important.
of it if they contribute to VHSCollector.com. I urge. There are a lot of big collectors out there that, for the life of me, I can't understand, but they are just not contributing. They got some great collections, and they're just not contributing to VHSCollector.com. And I really wish they would, because I really built or created VHSCollector.com to be a virtual community for everybody. And I don't know, some people just, haven't really, certain people come to mind, and they just haven't come forward to help complete that picture. I mean, it is what it is. They might have, different reasons why they're not doing that. I mean, I've met quite a few people at the VHS, conventions, the Severed VHS Con. I went to the first one and the second one. I met quite a few people there, and I would get a lot of people saying that they would submit stuff, and it would never happen. I don't know if it's because it's a lot of work or something, but I really hope that people could find it, as cheesy as this sounds, they could find it in their heart to submit some scans. They have some great collections, and I'd really love to see them be part of this.
Right. And when you say donate, you're not talking about just donating money, but donating scans, donating information, helping the database of VHSCollector.com grow. Right.
If I had to choose financial donations or scans, I would say submit scans. That's the most important thing. I'm not doing this for money or anything. I'm doing this, because I think it's a noble cause for the future. We're creating a digital archive of a digital record of all these videotapes. That's the most important thing. So VHSCollector.com might look crude for the next 5 years, but at least that archive of information will grow, and that's the most important thing.
Well, thanks a lot for hanging out with me and talking about VHS. It's definitely a topic that I love to talk about on a fairly frequent basis in the video store and all that fun stuff. So, thanks for hanging out, and thanks.
Yeah, if you ever want to do another chat, just let me know.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We'll definitely have to do that. But yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thanks for all the questions and all the cool stuff. Definitely go over, check out VHSCollector.com and VHS Collector on YouTube, and Horror is Dead on YouTube. Good stuff there. So
Thanks.
anyway, we'll see you guys later.
Good night.
Thanks for tuning in.